Hello, YouTube. It's Candace, the Dream Doula, Candace Latia Taylor, and I'm really excited to do this. I have never gone live to do um, a reading of any sort. I haven't been live in a long time. I used to um, go on YouTube live and share dance cardio workouts. But this is my first time doing a reading live, and I'm a little nervous, but I'm also very excited. Term my little cousin, coined nerve sighted is the vibe right now. A little bit about myself. I'm Candace Taylor. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts, and I have lived what feels like 27 lives in one. I am deeply, deeply, deeply multi passionate. And so that has taken me to prep school in New England for my middle school and high school experiences. That has taken me to Nicaragua for study abroad and eventually for a Fulbright research grant. That has taken me to New York City and have lived several lives in that city. It took me to San Diego just on a whim. I'd never been there before. So I really let my soul tell me what it's craving, what it wants to learn, what it wants me to be aware of, what it wants me to awaken to. And then I follow. I listen very, very, very deeply to my intuition. And I love that for me. And I love sharing that with other people. So, what I've noticed about myself, part of my kind of mission in the world is to help fellow multi-passionate people really honor their multi-passionate nature, honor who you are, honor your desires, honor your inner voice, um, your wisdom that's unique to you. And also, as you become more acquainted with that voice and that essence and develop more trust with it, um, design and live a life that feels really, really like a joyful expression of that essence of those discoveries. And I have a custom framework or formula to do that. I call it the Triple S Soul Care Framework. Self discovery, self intimacy work is the foundation and the pillar. Soul aligned strategy. So you're taking action that is derived from what you learn about yourself and what you know to be true for you. And then self celebration. We are hyping ourselves up. We are acknowledging our unique magic consistently. And we just do those three things in a cycle over and over again. And with that, we help ourselves to be grounded in presence with where we are now and what we're here to learn in that chapter or that season of our lives. And we nourish ourselves with not just positivity, but resilience with joy, right? And that feels really important for me. Joy is my top core value. So I'm always going to try to spread that out like cash money in the world. So the way that I approach readings, I call them soul care readings. I'm thinking about how can I help you edify yourself on a soul level? How can I help you nourish yourself on a soul level? And I use different tools to do so. Right now, I'm going to use astrology and tarot. I'm in a chapter or season of my life where those are the tools that I'm using, but I use a ton of different tools. I have deep psychic gifts. I get kind of like prophetic downloads that I receive from what I call my divine collective, which is God, Jesus, ancestors, loved ones that have passed, things of that nature, entities, spirits, beings of that nature. And I receive insights from them, and I receive insights from your divine collective. Those, when I'm doing collective readings, I'm receiving the divine collective, all of those spirits and energies that are here for our good. I'm tapping into that energy and receiving wisdom from them. So again, I'm going to be using astrology and tarot for the sake of this reading, for the context of this reading, but I use guided meditation. I use prayer. I use movement. I'm a dancer. I've been dancing for 30 years. So I use movement a ton as a conduit of divine wisdom and insight. So for today, I'm going to use tarot and astrology, but I call it my Barney bag of goodies, of intuitive goodies. I can reach in there and depending on the context, depending on the mood, depending on what's called for that day, I can tap into all of them. So I'm really excited to do this. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's get into it. So I think I'm going to start with Actually, I want to share something. So this is a new deck I got. This is the Tarot of Life deck. I love this deck. It's by Mariah Oler, who is a mentor and a guide that I deeply respect in my life, and has taught me a lot of, has expanded the foundations I built in tarot and helped me feel a lot more grounded as a tarot reader. This is the back of the deck. And then some of the cards, they're just so beautifully illustrated. I love them. Looks like we're upside down for a little bit here. Watch, I flip it, and then they're all going to be upside down again. I'm going to stop here. I just did a deck interview, and the guidebook, this is like the most practical guidebook I've ever experienced and ever worked with for tarot. When I started my tarot journey, I was incredibly intuitively led. I was at a friend's house, pet sitting. There was a couple of us that were kind of flowing through to support with walks for her dog. And she had a deck of tarot cards on the table. She had written a note for her other friend who liked using tarot cards and was like, use them, have fun. And I saw them and I was like, I want to try this out. I'd never even really heard of tarot cards at that point, to be honest. So of course, because I think this is my Virgo Venus, and we'll dive into my birth chart as part of this reading. But my love language is details, and like as much detail as possible. So of course I did a Celtic knot spread. It's one of the most complicated spreads that you can do in tarot. It's this big spread across up and down. I'm feeling called to do one. I'm not going to do it today, but maybe I'll do one for another reading. I felt called to do that spread, and it was so confusing. I was like, I have no idea what this means. What am I supposed to do with this? Right? Like, I truly no clue. And then I went to the guidebook for that deck. And mind you, this is the first time I've ever picked up a deck of tarot cards in my life. So I go to that guidebook, I'm reading through, and it says something about a dark-skinned woman, dark skin or dark hair. And all of a sudden, grandma popped in, like my grandmother. And my paternal grandmother has dark skin and dark hair. So I was like, okay, cool. So I look back at the cards and I look at the context and I realize this reading was not at all about me, which is how I was trying to interpret it. I was like, how does this relate to my life? It was my dad. And I was like, oh my gosh. Anywho, the divine downloads, the psychic channeling, the intuitive insight that came from that first reading it blew my mind. So I'm incredibly intuitive when I read. I sometimes reference the guidebook, but I do that always after I've fully channeled what's come through for myself. I won't do it in this reading because I like to share of myself. I shouldn't say I won't do it, because who knows? Like, I like to listen to whatever is present, but I doubt that I'll use it. So I want to be really present with you and with our energy, and I want to be intuitive here and channel whatever comes through. So that's that. I don't know how I got there, but I'm going to start with, I know how I got here. I just did a deck interview that came from the guidebook. And one of the questions that I asked was, how do you show me in this deck? So of course, when I was flipping through to show you the art in this deck, my signifier card came through, the Fool. This deck wants me to know that I am here to help people find vitality, walk toward the sun. I'm here to help people romanticize their lives and find joy and pleasure. I'm here to model what it looks like to start a new thing, to model what it looks like to start a new journey. Starting a new journey is hard. It's messy. It can, even though it's exciting, it can be really ugly, and it can come with a lot of failure and mistakes and mishaps. The Fool embraces that. The Fool is the first card of the major arcana. It doesn't even have a number, and it's here to go through the full journey of the major arcana. It's here to mature through life, through living, and to share that openly, blemishes and all, with the world. So that's my energy. That's what I'm here to bring you. And I'm so excited about that. So I was very pleased when this popped up. But That's part of why I'm here and part of what I want to share with you today. So thank you for letting me do that. Okay, so for this week, we're at the beginning of Aquarius season. This is the week of January 20th. I'm recording this on January 21st, 2025. And there's a lot in the air. It's a 9-year. So how you figure out the numerology that's associated with the year is you take the numbers that are within the year, so 2025, and you find the sum of them. So 2 plus 2 is 4, 4 plus 5 is 9. Reducing down, we get to a 9. 9 years are huge catalysts. It's a chemical reaction. There's a chemical shift in the nature of whatever you're talking about in a 9 year. So when we think about our collective, when we think about our world, there's a chemical shift that's happening. There's a chemical reaction that's being catalyzed by input. So this is the science nerd in me coming out, and also that Virgo Venus. I get into detail. So if you're a detail-oriented person, you're going to be very happy here. If you're not, take what resonates, leave the rest. When we have a chemical reaction, two things come together, and neither one of them holds their identity after coming into contact with the other, or whatever catalyzing agent is there, right? So we bring in things, they come together, and then they completely transform. That's the energy we find ourselves in. That means that there's maturity in the things that we're bringing together. There's a maturation process that has already occurred. There's an ending that's coming. And that also means there is a newness, there is a beginning, right? So there's loss that's associated with nines because we're transformed. What's interesting about chemical reactions, you can't go backwards. It's really, really hard to go backwards, right? And in most cases you can't. So there's a grief that happens because we can't go back to what was, and we lose what was. But there is an excitement and awakening because this new thing is like just ripe for discovery. It has new properties for us to explore. It has new benefits, so on and so forth. So that's the energy that we find ourselves in January of 2025, just beginning to process that 9-year energy. And then we could do the same thing with the date, right? So we could say it's January, so 1, and it's the 21st. So 2, 1, that's a 3. So 1 plus 3 is 4. I'm not going to combine that with the year just for the sake of this exercise. So when we look at today, for example, we're in a stabilizing energy. That's the theme. The 4s are a number of stability, and it's often the pursuit of stability. And oh my gosh, feeling even just yesterday's energy or Sunday's energy, I 1000% feel how much we're craving and gripping at stability. Nines ask us to do that. The world as we know it crumbles and decays and is eroded and destroyed. And we had a huge shift with Pluto that into Aquarius recently, that is going to mark our life, the rest of our lifetimes. If you're alive and watching this in 2025, this is going to mark the rest of our lifetime. We are now experiencing the decay and the disintegration of things that don't serve the collective, that are holding us back from advancement, technologically speaking, that are holding us back from advancement in terms of what's good and just and right for the collective. So that's the energy we're working with. And I want to pull a card to just say what's the balm that we need. I think a lot of the time, I'm paying attention to my nature, my 10th house. Actually, let's jump into the chart real quick. I'm just going to be very brief here. I'll do my tarot overview, like the more immersive one, later on, but I just want to show you one thing in my chart here. So this is my birth chart. This little pie slice is my 10th house. The 10th house is associated with career, but it's career that has to do with your long-term legacy and reputation. My career placement, my MC, my reputation placement is also in this part of my chart. For a lot of people, that is the case. You'll find your MC in your 10th house. It's not the case for everyone. But this tells me that this energy, this part of my chart, really, 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 really informs my legacy, my reputation, my career. And that is what's assigned to that part of my chart is the zodiac sign of Cancer. So I'm here, and my reputation is here to nurture, to be a caretaker, to provide, to be a balm, to be comfort, to be someone that rears others. So the first question that I'm compelled to ask is like, how do I help you? How do I pour into you? How do I nurture you? And when I say I mean, what can I pull through from divine insight to support you in that way? So let's pull a card. I'm going to ask for just one card here. Okay, we've got 3, so I'm going to put them back in. We've got a very talkative bunch here. We got 1. Thank you. Okay. You can't make this up. This card is chasing me this week. It's been coming up in a lot of readings. In fact, it came up in a reading that I did yesterday. So this is the Hermit card. We love the Hermit card. I love the Hermit card. Look what number it is. 9. That's the first thing that stuck out to me. So we need to embrace 9 energy. Sometimes what happens when there's a lot happening around us, we cast the light on all that's happening around us. We pay attention, we get distracted by all the details that are swirling around us. I'm imagining this person, like you can see that this person's dress is kind of blowing in the wind through the depiction of that draping of the fabric. This person is actively weathering a storm, and change can feel like weathering a storm. Navigating change can feel that way. So they have their lantern up, and what's important for us to do in 9 energy, in change, in disruption, is to find our inner light to guide our pathway forward. Right? This is making me think about how I've spent my day. I went on a walk earlier with my dog. I'm like trying to figure out where to start with this story. Let me go back a little bit further. I woke up pretty early this morning, and then I fell back asleep, still in the kind of like early stages of the morning. Like I woke up maybe 4:30, was up for a little bit, and I fell back asleep around 6. And I was met with an incredible exhaustion. And I felt myself like I would kind of wake up out of the exhaustion and just still be so tired. And I was like, what is wrong with me? Why am I so tired? I went to bed early last night. I didn't stay up late. So the degree of how tired I was didn't quite make sense to me. I was like, what is up with this? Like, I'm not really feeling this vibe. And I was criticizing myself for how tired I was. But now that I'm reflecting on that, I'm understanding that that was the hermit energy. The hermit energy sometimes cloaks us in tiredness, fatigue, darkness, right? I think depression falls into this. Hermit energy sometimes cloaks us in those themes, surrounds us in those themes or those qualities so that we slow down and so that we go inward, right? It was purpose for me to be tired so that I could be receptive to the messages that were coming through, to the communication that was coming through. I know that I don't remember my dreams, but I feel different after I dream. I feel informed in a very unique way. So then hours later, I'm up finally, and I go for a walk with my pup, and he's taking his time going to the bathroom. So we do a couple of loops, and there's one part of the walk where I go through a loop, and I'm really in my head about the theme of finances. I'm really in my head about it. And I'm on the 21st day of a manifestation challenge. It's the last day. I'm on the 21st day of my Daniel fast. It's the last day. And so I'm again in this edge of endings and beginnings. It feels like a very 9 moment in my life. And I'm just grappling with, the layers of my manifestation that don't feel like they've come to fruition, my present reality. And I was very honest. I was like, you know what, God, I'm freaking frustrated. Like I can say this and that, and like nothing's changed, and here's still my reality, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just pouring out my truth. Hermit energy allows us to do that, right? Sometimes when we have external forces around us, we're not truthful. We're not truthful, or we're not as truthful as we can be. We perfectly polish what we want to say. We say the right things. We say what we think, others want to hear. We say what we think is palatable or acceptable to other people. Being in hermit energy, you don't it's kind of rare that you lie to yourself. It's kind of rare. Unless your belief system is attached to that lie, it's pretty rare that you lie to yourself. So in that moment, in that first loop around, I just said my truth. I was like, listen, here's my frustrations. Here's where I want to be. Here's where the degree of where I'm not. Here's what annoys me about how you've shown me divine energy, how you've shown me God, how I'm supposed to get to where I want to go. I'm irritated by it. I'm trying, but it doesn't seem to be working. So I said my truth. Little Toasty is not going to the bathroom. He's taking his time. So we end up on another loop and we walk past the same thing. The second time, I coached myself differently through that walk. I said, I don't want to walk this same part of my journey and be saying the same things to myself. Whoa, whoa. And I was guided back to, I'm going to forget her last name, Juliet C. I'll figure out and link it in here because it's important. But Juliet is a hypnotherapist who speaks very commonly to folks with ADHD. So her content really resonates with me because she speaks to her clientele and her ideal audience in a very dignified way. She speaks to them from a place of not it is pain points, but an elevated pain point. It a vision forward, it not like the stuck place. It's from a place of emergence and expansion and transformation. And I love the way that she speaks to her ideal client. It really, really resonates with me as a person who is like very growth mindset oriented. So I was in this moment drawn back to something she said recently for folks with ADHD. It's really hard for us to engage with regular manifestation practices because we can hyperfixate on this is my language. We can hyperfixate on the problem, right? So it's hard for us to move through manifestation practices because most ask you to surrender and release. Surrendering and releasing is hard if you're fixated on one thing, right? And so the approach or the technique that she shared to move through what I am identifying for myself as hyperfixation is to envision what you desire, envision what you want. And so I started in that moment just to say like, okay, let me turn back to what I want for myself, because it's not a no, it's a not yet. It's not a no, it's a not yet. That's what was coming through. And then the second layer of what happened is God was like, you're thinking way too far ahead. Like, I don't even want you to think end of day. I want you to figure out what the next steps are for your day. Like, go back and create an agenda for your day. And I just tapped into three things that I was going to do. I wanted to do a yoga practice, and I was actually very specific. I was like, I want to do a black yoga practice, and I want to do a yin yoga practice, or a practice with a black yoga practitioner and a yin yoga practice. So that was the first thing that I just landed on. Then I wanted to watch something on YouTube. I didn't get more specificity than that when it first dropped in. And then I wanted to do a collective tarot reading, or I shouldn't say tarot collective. I wanted to do a tarot reading. Those were the three things that dropped in. And I was like, okay, great. I instantly felt a million times better. Why am I sharing this? Because I went inward. I was honest with myself. I let myself take my time through my process. I did not I tried my best to release the demonization of self. I was like, that's not interesting. I don't need to focus on all of my, all of my flaws and my lacks and my deficits. I don't need to harp on that. I can acknowledge it and then I can move the F on and lean into what I do have the power to do. So I was encouraging myself and I was coaching myself and I was tapping into divine insights that are available to all of us. Right? I use the word God. You can use whatever you want. Like the manifestation challenge I'm doing references the universe. If that resonates with you, that resonates with you. But no matter who you are, there is wisdom that wants to meet you. And typically the best way to do that is to lean into her energy, go inward, connect with self, and use your own light to guide your way forward through whatever storm you find yourself in. So this is our balm, the hermit energy. We have to slow down. And sometimes that means letting ourselves be sleepy and feel sleepy. Sometimes that means not demonizing depression and anxiety when they come on. I always tell people, your depression is an alarm clock. Your anxiety is an alarm clock. You don't throw your alarm clock in the trash when it goes off. You listen to it. You listen to it. You press off if you can, or you maybe have to get up and move through some things. You do some things. Maybe somebody puts their alarm clock in a different, or their alarm clock in a different room. Maybe you have to get up, do a couple of things, walk to the alarm clock to turn it off. Sometimes depression is like that. We have to do a couple of things to move, to state shift, to change the atmosphere and the environment that we're in, and then we find ourselves in that new environment, and then we can turn off the alarm clock, right? So don't demonize your depression. Don't demonize your anxiety. Embrace those things when they come up. They're alerts, right? Don't demonize the hermit energy. Go inward. Go inward. Okay, what's next? Okay, so a couple of cards flip through. We're going to start with the Justice card. Okay, so this week for sure, the Justice card is coming up. I freaking love this deck. It is so good. Go run and buy one. Go run and buy one. I don't know how many more decks she has. Like she hand designed all of these, and like the deck I ordered, she literally shipped from her home, and like I can't. Anywho, I love this because we're, as a Black woman, justice is inextricably woven into my identity, right? It's ancestrally tied to my identity. Justice is also, we can see the scales here. So this is a Libra card. I'm a Libra, sun and rising. So this is, honey, this is representing Black womanhood and moi in this moment. But what it's making me think about is how this moment in time, justice is activated. She is blinded with her physical eyes. So she's relying on something deeper for sight, right? Because she's wielding balance, and she's also thinking about her weapon of choice. Her posture is ready. Her posture is nimble. Her posture is active, engaged, even though she's quote unquote blind. I was just listening to a sermon. What I landed on to listen to on YouTube was a beautiful sermon by Sarah Jakes Roberts. I will definitely drop that into for you to access, because it was incredible. It was so good. Oh, it just activated me. I felt really amazing. I'm going to give you the cliff notes of this, but one of the things that she was sharing was how God blinded Saul, who's a biblical character, as God was getting ready to give Saul an encounter with Jesus that would change his mind and his belief system. And the changing of the mind and belief system was a transformation that would activate his purpose in life. That's the cliff notes that I'm going to give you, right? So this blinded posture with an orientation toward justice and a weapon of choice to fight the battle of justice means that we're being oriented right now through a deeper level of sight. It's not what's visible. And I think that, oh my gosh, Black women are so on the nose right now. It's funny how it's being presented, but we hear the 92% and how a lot of Black women are just like, you know what? I'm resting. I'm focusing on my pleasure. I'm focusing on my joy. That was my orientation toward the last at the end of 2024. I would say much sooner, but certainly after the US presidential election, I was like, listen, it's chaos. It's madness. I'm not going to be chaotic and mad and mad with you all. I'm leaning into joy, pleasure, delight, and rest. That's what I'm focusing on. And I see a lot of there's I'm on threads. I love threads. I'm seeing a lot of people talk about the 4-year sabbatical for Black women. So of course, we are blinded from what's happening in the world. Okay? But not blinded here. The eyes of our heart are still open. And we're still finding ways to cultivate balance, to cultivate order, to defend. I'm gonna leave that there. So the wisdom of this is it's time to stop relying on your eyes for fucking everything. Okay? You don't have to pay attention so closely to what's happening in the world. You know what the problem is? So many of us are relying on these visual eyes that are eyes of discernment, our hearing, our heart orientation, our divine wisdom. That is just being eroded by the noise. This world is so noisy, it's so loud. The mayhem of our leaders is so loud, and it's blinding us from what our purpose is. And I don't want that for you. Okay, so we got to shift that. Next up is the Four of Cups. The Four of Cups, you can see this woman's quite sassy, quite spicy. Within this imagery, we have Three of Cups. So I always start there. The Three of Cups represents friendships, represents community, represents nostalgia, represents gratitude. And it's an emotional place that is derived from all of those things, right? So it's you pick up the phone, you call a friend, and they just cheer you up instantly, even if even if it's a 5-minute phone call. The Four of Cups lets us know that there's a disruption in our emotional stability. And this card actually came through in reverse. So what I'm thinking the disruption is a blockage. This blockage is a lack of gratitude. Right? You have 3 full cups here. You're not even paying attention to this 4th cup being filled, and you got a stank attitude. Look at this woman. She's decked out. She got a cute outfit on. She got some nice jewelry. She's got it going on. And she's not paying attention to how much she has. She's like, so look at all this nice jewelry. She's caught up in spilled shit that she's not even paying attention to. Right? And so I think that, as we're thinking about this justice card, and the blindness that we have, what we need to be focusing on is nourishing ourselves with gratitude. It's so funny. Earlier today, I posted on LinkedIn 7 things that I'm grateful for. Like it's only Tuesday, and I just was specific to this week. It's only Tuesday, and I have so much to be grateful for. I'm actually inspired. A dear friend of mine, Celeste, she's been creating these very fun, simple TikTok style posts with little things that are bringing her gratitude. That is a perfect combatant to this 4 of Cups energy, and it's a perfect orientation for the eyes of our heart. Right? That source of gratitude will help you manifest and catalyze all these things. The next card that we have is the Student of Cups. The student is synonymous with the knight. If you're used to traditional tarot, the knight is a little bit like all over the place. I call the knights all have a little bit of a fuckboy energy, right? They're distracted, they do too much, they're charming and you love them, but they're just a little bit of a mess. Okay, so the Student of Cups has this energy when it comes to emotions, when it comes to intuition, when it comes to divine downloads. You're distracted. This asks you to get a little bit more ritualistic and disciplined with how you tap in. Don't let yourself, and I'm speaking to myself, I'm preaching to myself. Don't let yourself get to 1:00 in the afternoon before you start your spiritual rituals. And I will cut myself some slack. I think I was in spiritual processing mode when I was asleep. I think stuff was being poured into me. But usually I wake up and I immediately listen to my, listen to my meditation for the day, or I read my Bible, or I know better. I'm disciplined when it comes to spirituality and when it comes to spiritual explorations. Okay. So when the student of cups comes up, it's saying, baby, get it together. Come on. What's so beautiful is that this is accompanied with a teacher of cups. So, okay, there's a couple of things that are saying you get to mature. You have the awareness now. It's as simple as having the awareness and shifting and maturing. It can be as quick as a snap. The second thing is maybe you need to call in mentorship. Maybe you need to call someone in who's a little bit further down the pipeline. So, I'm going to sit with this. I think one form of mentorship that I had was that sermon. I really respect Sarah Jakes Roberts, who did this sermon that I was listening to earlier. It was incredible. And I love her as a spiritual leader. So that was maybe my way of tuning into wisdom, an elevated, wise figure to guide me. The other thing that I'm seeing here is the teeth being kind of like projected or magnified. So I'm getting like be your own teacher. What are you saying to me? I'm hearing be your own teacher, study yourself. Right? I was actually on Threads. There was a woman who was saying she read her journal. She read some journal entries that she had written. Oh no, this is not on Threads. Nadia Da'ala, a new friend of mine, she was saying recently that she read a journal entry of hers, and it was like the perfect medicine. So I think the teacher of cups is saying, especially with the cups, it's like feelings, emotions, right? What better source of your own feelings and emotions than your journal? And I always tell people when I work one-on-one with a client, part of the work that we do is to help you build a textbook from your own life, is to help you get the lessons, get the history, the anecdotal data from yourself to teach yourself in the future. So that's part of what we're looking to explore here, right? So it's saying go inward, get really curious about yourself and the wisdom that comes from your mouth. Let yourself be your own mouthpiece. Process your own feelings and emotions and let them teach you. That's that. To help you tap in and get a little bit out of the student of cups energy. So we're we're deeply in the cups mode. That makes sense, right? I think like this is a highly emotionally charged moment in time. We as the globe is impacted by what's happening in this moment, right? And I'm going to go back to I'm going to share my chart again. The world's impacted by this moment. The transits of this time are huge. We've got this year alone, we've got 4 major outer planet transit moves. What does that mean? So there's inner planets that are closest to us, the sun, the moon, Venus. Those are Mercury. Those are planets that move pretty quickly, and they're fairly close to us. The outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, they're further from us. So their transits are longer. So the impact for those planets is generational. It's long term, right? We're not thinking so much about ourselves personally. We're thinking more about the collective because the impact is so long, right? We've got 4 planets that are outer planets that are shifting in this year. So there's monumental shifts on a collective basis. All of that stuff is starting to process and reveal itself to us now, right? Even the planets that haven't shifted yet into new signs, that's all it's stirring up. That energy is that momentum. We're starting to feel that shift. So let me go to my chart and I'll pick out a couple of transits that I'm interested in. So I'm going to do an Astro one-on-one moment. This is an amalgamation of all my astrology teachers, the Astro one-on-one, how to understand your birth chart. So we've got 12 pie slices. right? And you can see those numbers in 1, 2, 3, all the way through 12. Each pie slice is representative of an area of our life. One, for example, is our sense of self, the ego, the part of us that, that wants to stay alive. 9 is travel, philosophy, education. 10, as I mentioned before, is career, so on and so forth. So there's all these representations of our lives. When you look around the outside, this kind of lighter yellow circle, each house, based on the time that you were born and the date that you were born, gets assigned a zodiac sign or an astrological sign. So my first house is assigned Libra based on the time that I was born, day and time that I was born. So again, we can then start to put together like a, a language interpretation based on my first house being Libra. My sense of self, the ego, my inner vitality is coded with Libra energy. Libra is all about balance, right? That justice card that I was alluding to before. Libra is all about balance. Libra cares about justice. Libra cares about beauty. Look how beautiful this woman is. Okay? Libra cares about beauty. Libra cares about um, resource and wielding strength, so on and so forth, right? So when I think about my sense of self, that 100% captures my sense of self. um I'm going to stop there for the sake of this general overview. Within each pie slice, we may or may not have what is called placements or planets or planetary placements. So you can see in my first house, I have my AC, which is my rising or my ascendant. That's my inner motor, how I move through the world, how I'm compelled to lead. And actually, there's an astrologer that I follow. I think her channel is called Lunatic Astrology, and Luna, like moon, Lunatic Astrology. And she really beautifully described the rising as the character that we come into this lifetime choosing to navigate life with, right? So you think about Mortal Kombat, I choose Libra. And that's the character and that's the energy. I move through life and I navigate life and my kind of will to move through life. Your sun sign, my sun is also here, is known as in the same explanation, she said your sun sign is who you are at the deepest part of your core. And typically, as we move through life, you start to shed the layers of the character of your rising sign and lean more into your sun sign. I'm lucky. My rising sign is the same as my sun sign, so I'm a Libra through and through. What's beautiful is we have placements in other parts of our chart that inform other layers of our identity and of our essence. So you are, yes, I'm a Libra, but I'm also a Pisces. And I'm also an Aries, even though this part of my chart doesn't have any placements in there. You do not have to have a placement to have that astrological influence, right? We have the influence of all 12 things. And I think this is really important for us. Pop astrology has reduced as a tool, right? It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it has intentionally reduced things down to our sun sign to make it accessible, right? To make it so that you're curious and want to read your horoscope every day. I love that it did that. But it limits how we perceive ourselves because it doesn't remind you that you have all 12 of these signs within your essence, within your makeup, and they're very unique to you based on when you were born. And that's why I love doing natal chart readings. They're so, so powerful. And then you add on the layer of the transits. So the planets, obviously, the natal chart is a snapshot of the sky when we were born, so it looks frozen in time. But the planets obviously continue to move throughout time. So, any given day, we're going to see the planets moving, these planetary placements moving into different parts of our chart. So, I'm going to just share one for the sake of this reading. We have Pluto and the sun conjunct each other essentially, so sharing the same energy, uniting. They're less than 10 degrees apart, and that's a conjunction. They're joined in the Aquarius part of our chart. Aquarius is my fifth house. So my fifth house is pleasure, my inner child, playfulness. The fifth house is associated with Leo energy. So it's also charisma, storytelling, play, fun, joy. So the sun that's transiting, or the sun's light, vitality for the collective, plus Pluto, disruption, decay, transformation, death, are lighting up how I play, how I experience delight, how I experience pleasure, how I experience joy, right? They're activating that. I think personally, this transit, and this is a long one because it's Pluto, although it with the sun's additional energy and vitality and shining on there, that is going to be just for Aquarius season, so about a month. Um, I believe that this is breaking down my relationship to pleasure, and I saw that, I felt this last year. I honestly had never, in a romantic relationship, I'd never stopped and said, "Does this bring me pleasure? Does this, sexual relationship or experience that I'm having bring me pleasure?" Like, of course I felt it, but I'd never intended, like, I intentionally said to myself, "Is this bringing you pleasure? Is this what you want? What do you want?" That was not something that I was regularly asking myself, and I noticed that with Pluto in this part of my chart, and with the Aquarian energy of it, like, explore your queerness, and walking outside and coloring outside of the lines. Maybe you need to explore collective care, right? And part of collective care is allowing yourself to receive. It's reciprocity. Reciprocity doesn't only go in one direction. So if you're giving, 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 you're not participating in collective care. You have to be willing to receive. So that was something that was disrupted and broken down as Pluto started to move into this part of my chart. And I'm loving the disintegration of infrastructure that I don't know actually serves me, right? And that's what Pluto and now the sun's extra energy moving in there is doing. It's creating disruption for a purpose. And it's Uranus, I would say, is more of a disruption energy, rebellious disruption energy. Pluto says this is old, this is weathered, this is broken down, this is decaying. Let's continue the process. Let's catalyze that process. The other thing that I want to point out is they're right on top of my natal Saturn. So this will also, Saturn is the disciplinarian planet. An astrologer friend of mine, Fanny Joy, calls Saturn the daddy planet, which I love. And so when we think about Saturn, it's discipline for as an act of care. It's discipline as an act of compassion. It's discipline as an act of rearing you up and taking care of you, as providing for you. So with Pluto and the sun in Aquarius in my fifth house, right on top of my Saturn, I think this is asking me to be disciplined about what I'm releasing and not going back to the bullshit, right? It's asking me to be disciplined about committing to receiving, disciplined about committing to what brings me pleasure and being mindful of that. And disciplined about my collective care. So once I'm poured into, and my my mission for this year in particular, and I think this is a theme for a few years. I'm not sure exactly how long, but this does feel like a longer thing because I've been talking about it for a few years now. It feels very like I'm in my prime of it right now, and I think it's a few years on the other side. But the theme is pour into yourself so you can pour from your overflow. Pour into yourself so you can pour from your overflow. That's my Aquarian energy. I delight myself so much. I feel so much pleasure. I feel so much joy that I can't help but spill that over into the world around me. I can't help but to bless you with pleasure and joy and excitement and delight and inner child care, right? Like I can't help it because I'm overflowing. I get to be disciplined about that. And that's what these transits are activating. So if any of this resonates with you, I love that. That's so wonderful. But hopefully that tarot portion of this really landed and you're thinking about, okay, what does this mean for me? How does this apply for me? If you want my guidance and my support in personalizing this, I would love to do a soul care reading for you. They're $111, 45 minutes for a session. And this is about my magic is saying, okay, here's the intuitive downloads. Here's the wisdom that's coming through. Let's be prescriptive and tactical about how you're going to move with that energy. And I use tools like tarot and astrology and prayer and guided meditation, so on and so forth, to help you personalize the insights that come through and make sure that you have a really clear course of action to move forward with. So that's a soul care reading for the collective today for this week. I hope that this nourishes and edifies you and supports you. You can head to the description box. I'm going to have a lot of resources, all of the folks that I mentioned in this, throughout this reading. There's a lot of resources and people that I mentioned. I'm going to make sure that I share all of them with you. I love you. I'm so grateful that you took time out of your day to be with me, even if it's not live. My heart is so full and so warm, and I am so hopeful. I'm so encouraged, and I hope you are too. Blind yourself from what's happening in the world. It is intentionally chaotic. It is intended to distract you. It is intended to overwhelm you. Go into your hermit space. Listen to that still small voice. There's a scripture that my grandmother had etched onto a mirror for me that was, in quietness and confidence shall be your strength. Get into that quiet space so that you can cultivate confidence from that sense of self-trust, and then you will be strengthened, right? We need strength in this season. We need you to have determination. We need you to have willpower. The shit that's happening in the world is not going to be easy to fight, but we can. We have the power. We are so strong, and I'm rooting for you. I love you. I hope you are doing well. If this resonates with you, please let me know. I have an app. It's called the Joy Hub app. You have to type in the Joy Hub, available on the Android and Apple. Uh, Download, available for download for both Apple and Android. So please tap in there. But I would love to hear your thoughts. How did this resonate with you? Please share any ahas, any action steps that you're going to take from watching this with us in the app. We would love to encourage you, help hold you accountable, and just learn from you. Sending you so much love. Bye for now, friends. Mwah!